An hour ago, in the cold desert of Alaska, something happened that no one could have predicted. Donald Trump, usually seen surrounded by cameras and an entourage, appeared where no one expected him. An old military base long forgotten, even in official reports. Not for a parade, not for politics, but for a letter. A letter from a girl named Angela. She wrote without embellishment, without unnecessary words. Simply, my brother John is serving on the base in Alaska. We haven't seen him in a long time, but I know there are people there no one will ever hear. If you truly want to understand what the word service means, come. Alone. No cameras. Normally, such letters would vanish into the endless flood of mail. But this one caught his attention. Maybe because the words were too honest. Maybe because there was no plea for help, only a challenge. And unexpectedly, Trump made a decision. The plane landed on an abandoned runway, covered with snow and whipped by the wind. No journalists, no guards, no banners. Only silence. In front of him stood old barracks with peeling paint, the smell of kerosene and frozen iron. But here lived those who held the country's defense. The first to meet him was John, Angela's brother. Tall, with a stern face, yet in his eyes, warmth and fatigue. You really came, he said quietly, as if he didn't believe it himself. I said I'd come, so I came, Trump replied. In that moment, he didn't look like a politician. He was just a man who had stepped into someone else's world. John showed him around the base. Not the ceremonial rooms, there weren't any. Only the truth. In an old barrack, instead of a gym, were pull-up bars welded from scrap metal. On the wall, letters from mothers and children, pinned with pencils. In another room, a table cluttered with old radios, which the soldiers tried to repair themselves, just to hear the voices of their loved ones. We don't expect medals, John said. We're just trying not to lose ourselves. In the medical station, Trump met Irina, a young medic. She not only treated wounds, but also drew, on old sheets of paper, the faces of those who would never return. If we forget their faces, she said, showing a portrait, we'll forget ourselves too. Trump stared at those drawings for a long time. They carried more truth than thousands of reports. Then John brought him to the quiet zone, a small, dimly lit room with wooden tables. On the shelves were dozens of notebooks. Here, everyone writes down what they can't say out loud, John explained. Trump opened one. On the page, in shaky handwriting, it said, I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of becoming hardened, of becoming empty. If that happens, tell my mother that I loved her anyway. He closed the notebook, but those words stayed inside him. It was here, on this cold base, that a decision was born. Not another plan, not a slogan, but an idea that mattered most. He proposed building a new center on the base. Not a museum of victories, not a showcase for parades, but a memory center. A place where letters, drawings, and voices would be preserved. Where pain could be spoken of without fear. Where families could hear their children, even from afar. The center was named after Anna Diakova, John and Angela's mother. A woman who had lost her husband, but still raised her children to keep their humanity. Months passed. Letters began arriving at the center from all over Alaska. Then from other states. Children sent drawings for the soldiers. Veterans brought old letters from the front. Families shared stories. Angela came to the opening. She stood next to her brother, her eyes holding what no official speech could, pride and pain together. It all started with your letter, John told her. She smiled through tears. No, it started because you never stopped being human. When Trump returned to Washington, he was different. He no longer spoke of assets and resources. He spoke of memory, of those who write letters in cold barracks, of those who draw faces so they won't be forgotten, of those who fear not death, but losing the ability to feel. And that became more important than any slogan. Because this is not a story about war. It is a story about memory. About how even one letter can change an entire country. And about how true strength lies in the ability to remain human.